Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Fanatically Speaking. I'm your host, Kent. And now, as you know of last episode, I am your only host. So, me just being here now by myself, first episode, had to get into Super Bowl 60, the reactions, the recap of the game. My first thought, going into the game was, I thought, battle could be defensively. Loggoff and myself, we talked about it. We did our preview, and then we did our actually picks and got into a lot of the details of the game that was what it was going to come down to. And I will say that we were right on a lot of aspects of the game, what we thought could happen and would happen. And then I think, the way the game played out also kind of probably gave us something we weren't expecting, right? And what we weren't expecting was, and to tie into another episode we did, our best and worst Super Bowls we've watched, I think I'm going to put this one down as, one of the worst Super Bowls I've ever watched. Now, again, if you're a Seahawks fan, then you enjoyed it. Nothing's better than watching your team blow out someone in the Super Bowl. The problem with this Super Bowl was offensively, it really wasn't there either. Some numbers are there. Some numbers are they're more than what they say they are. Right? They're not truth to the game. In a lot of ways, this game also it brought me back to last year's Super Bowl with the Chiefs and the Eagles, where again, as an Eagles fan, yeah, you love the blowout, but the Eagles at least gave you big plays and those moments, either offense and defensively, right? They gave you both of those, and that the defense was just shutting down the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. So in this game, it was early on in the game, defensive. The Seahawks obviously shut down the Patriots in this game, but early on, the Patriots were holding their own defensively, and we know they're a good defensive team. We brought that up, right? But yeah, the first half was brutal. It is a nice way, not even a nice way to put it, but I think a good word to put it. I'm all for a defensive game. I'm all for, football at its finest. I don't need I don't need all that, but I also need something else, though. And this game was just kind of, from the broadcast to the presentation, it just kind of felt like a lull, But yeah, defensive game early. Both teams, getting pressure on the quarterbacks. Seahawks were getting sacks early. They got them all game, but early they were the only one getting sacks. And I think the Patriots only ended up with like one sack. Former Eagles Super Bowl champion Milton Williams got that sack. But yeah, first half field goal party, 9-0 Seahawks. Darnold, like we said, both quarterbacks getting pressured. Sam Darnold making plays, like not explosive plays, but making the play. A few times, again, came really close to getting intercepted, real close to, turning the ball over, but he didn't. And that's very key in this football game. But like I said, he was under pressure early, but made some really good throws. Just, put it where it had to be, where it wasn't intercepted or deflected. But there were some deflects early too, though. He was not accurate either early, and really throughout the game, it was roughly about 50%, I believe. But again, like I said, he wasn't losing the game. Seattle was doing their thing again, defense. Really, Patriots could not get anything going offensively. A couple bright moments for, like Christian Gonzalez made some really good plays. Could have had a pick, broke up a huge bomb to Shaheed at the last second. Patriots were playing like very tight, up on the receivers, making it really hard for anybody to make a play, make a catch. So it wasn't, again, you weren't watching anything exciting. Let's just say that. Seattle got off of, some runs with Kenneth Walker. Again, Darnold making some plays to keep a drive going. They would kind of get down and then stall. Patriots would hold them with their defense. And again, it just looked like, I was like, man, this will be the first Super Bowl that was going to have an MVP that's a kicker. the way it was rolling, right? I said, well, someone's got to, pad up the defensive stats with like sacks or a pick six or just something crazy to say, oh, yeah, that was the play of the game and that was going to get them the MVP because nobody else did anything. A few things I noticed in the game and especially the first half. Drake May obviously was not accurate. It looked like the bright lights of the Super Bowl was getting to him. Even when he had time, occasionally he would not find his receiver or be off target where they're having to reach or it's behind them or short. So Drake May definitely looked like the moment. We mentioned this in the title of the last episode was the moment. Is it Drake May's moment? Is it Sam Darnold's redemption in this game? And Drake May just, the moment looked too big for him. And quickly I thought, and there's always young, and it's his second year, and it's like, yeah, and maybe one more year will matter, right? But I do know, and again, I know I'm a homer, I know I'm biased, but Jalen Hurts was 24 years old in the Super Bowl, the first time against the Chiefs, and I know he lost, but he put up huge numbers, and the moment was not too big for him, and everyone, of course, they did not want the game to end the way it did with that flag that led to a game-winning field goal because they wanted to say, let's get the ball back to Jalen Hurts and see what he does. This game is exciting, in the 30s, both teams. The one mistake, obviously, he did make in that game, a missed face mask on that fumble that led to a Chiefs touchdown. But anyways, not to stick here on Jalen Hurts. But again, he was 24, so we've seen young quarterbacks go to the Super Bowl, early on in their career. So this is not, I don't want to use youth or anything like that as a reason that Drake May struggled in this game. But we have to be honest and say they had a good season. He was second in MVP. He had a great regular season. We brought up the fumbles. But again, he's been really good. And in his career, he's been really good, right? Even with a bad team, his rookie season. So, but again, it looked like the moment was too big. He was never right. And I know they mentioned something after the game about his shoulder. I don't like reports like that because then that kind of wants to add an excuse to a bad performance. And I don't want to see that. I don't want to hear that, right? It's just, let's be honest about the performance. And to me, it looked like, again, the Super Bowl, we talked about it. Is it going to be too big? Who's it going to be too big for? How do these guys, a Sam Darnold who is a veteran but yet still inexperienced in these huge moments, and a Drake May, obviously the biggest moment in his career, how do they do and how do they react and how do they play? And again, he could not do anything. Seattle would rush 4, couldn't do anything, pressure. Seattle threw blitz, get a sack. So they really, really were tight, and you didn't even know Stephon Diggs was in the game. I don't even think he was being a target. It was just really, it was really rough to watch. Now, they did play a little bit of field position and had some chances, I think, and just missed out getting that turnover, getting that play that would have definitely flipped the game, but they just could not get it as a team. So, and like I mentioned, Kenneth Walker running well in the first half. He obviously ended up with a big night. But as we went to halftime, we were just like, again, it's like, are we going to get anything out of this game? Second half, the third quarter really was about the same. It was more of the same. It was more Drake May, having issues. It was another field goal by Seattle. It was pretty much the same. Then at the end of I believe it was the end of the third quarter, close to it, that's when you got that fumble by Drake May, right? You get the fumble, leads to points, and we talked about that in the preview episode in the picks. It was, the turnovers. Seattle was really good in turning the ball over this year, even though, like I said, both teams had great defenses, but Seattle was good on those turnovers, and they created this one here, got the fumble recovery, strip sack fumble. Sam Darnold offensively, finally we see some points outside of a field goal. Darnold with the pass to Barner for the touchdown, which at that point made it 19-0, and I'm like, yo, this game's over. Like early in the fourth quarter, here we are. What's going to happen? Well, then amazingly, Drake May all of a sudden hits two, and they were really tough throws, really tight spaces, but it took two to Matt Collins to get points on the board. One to get him down to the field, and then another one for the touchdown. So give Drake May really good credit there. I mean, those were like the best passes of the night, maybe, right? I mean, Sam Darnold had some good passes, but those were so tight. The coverage was so good that those, even in the loss for Drake May and the Patriots, and a bad night for Drake May, those two passes were unbelievable. And that's what it at least shows you what Drake May can do, what he's about, when he's on, when he makes the throws, when he makes the plays, right? They needed a lot more of that. And it was almost too little too late. And, I'm texting him like, the game's over, though. Like, that was great, but, a lot of time in the fourth quarter here, but, the game's over. And ultimately, again, the Patriots did end up getting the ball back. And it was like, okay, if they score here, 19-7, like if they score again, now we're a one-score game, and now it gets a little tight, right? And the Patriots had a really good drive going, and again, Drake May, I don't know where he was throwing it, down the middle, behind the receiver. It might have got tipped. There was some hands up. There was some pressure. Again, pressure. He was up in the pocket, and again, it kind of just, sailed, or whatever you want to call it, and intercepted by Seattle. So that kind of killed that drive and really just about killed the night. But again, Seattle couldn't do anything with it, right? Not anything major, right? I think they ended up with maybe another field goal. Yeah, they ended up with another field goal. So you're looking at it now, and you're just like, again, there's still an outside shot. Patriots, of course, getting the ball back, and then, the big hit by Witherspoon that was going to be a strip sack, but ball in the air caught Owansu, and a pick six, 45-yard touchdown, and that was the nail in the coffin. That was the game that put them up by enough to say, yeah, this is over. And that's what Loggoff was talking about. You get that double-digit lead, and then the blowout happens. Now, again, alluding back to our previous episode, and so Loggoff was right there. He had he talked about the blowout, talked about getting that lead, and then extending it once it was two scores. There were moments, though, it couldn't have been, right? It wasn't going to be. So ultimately, the defense ended up, running the score up with their plays, with their turnovers, which is, again, what they've done all season. Let's see here. So Patriots got another drive together, put up some meaningless yards, a meaningless touchdown, and that was pretty much all. That was all it was. So with that being said, Drake, these are the big points I looked at the game, right? We kind of just went through the game. Seahawks, of course, win 29-13. And it was ultimately, again, it came to the quarterbacks, but we talked about defense, we talked about turnovers, special teams. Those were like the key, I thought, really key. And then you get into the quarterbacks, right? What were they going to do? Would they turn the ball over? Would they make plays, right? Drake May, of course, ended up with the fumble on the strip sack, 2 interceptions, one for a pick six, missed throws, not accurate, and just, again, erratic the whole game, just kind of never comfortable. And even when he had time, like we talked about, it was just not, he did not have, the throws. The throws just weren't there. He didn't get them there. So tough night for him. He can keep his head up. Now, again, history not in his favor. Well, we've talked about this too. Quarterbacks who lose their first Super Bowl that they are in, There's been only one in NFL history. We're in 60 years of the NFL, 60 years of Super Bowl, and only one quarterback has made it back to a Super Bowl after losing their first time in the Super Bowl. And the only guy, again, not biased. I'm just giving you stats here, guys. I am biased, but not biased or being a homer here. But Jalen Hurts is the only quarterback to do it. He did it 2 years later and won the Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP. So for Drake May, it's not, all gloom and doom. It's, hey, Jalen Hurts did it. You're really young too, just like he was. So head up. You are obviously a baller in the MVP conversation with a good coach, with a good team, organization. I think they'll get you right. Everybody will get better. The young guys on that line will get better. Get you another weapon at receiver, right? You'll get better. The game will come to you. I think Drake May will be fine. Again, now what he's got to worry about though now in the AFC going forward is just that, hey, Josh Allen's still there. Patrick Mahomes will come back. Lamar Jackson will be there still. The guys that weren't in the playoffs or did what they needed to do in the playoffs this year, they're going to be back. Joe Burrow is still in the league. So the AFC is loaded with really good quarterbacks and organizations and teams and coaches. I mean, like I said, Denver really good. It just, they lose Bo Nix in the snow. So it's going to be I think it's going to be a tough climb for the Patriots to get back here, but they have a good base. They have a good core. And again, they went from 3-14 to 14-3 into the Super Bowl. So nothing to hang their heads down about. Just wasn't their day. It was just reminiscent of last season with the Eagles and Chiefs. It was reminiscent of, the 10 years ago with Denver and Carolina, reminiscent of when Seattle's first Super Bowl victory over Denver, just dominating, and the offensive on the other team could not do anything. But very reminiscent of that Broncos-Panthers, and we talked about that being Loggoff's worst Super Bowl to watch because offensively there was not a lot to watch. And, like I said, Seattle, a lot of yards by Kenneth Walker. I think he ended up like 135, something like that, 20-some yards receiving. Darnold had his touchdown, and that was kind of like the one, play. And then just Walker, running the ball. And, ultimately, though, Seattle, their defense was the real – it was the real MVP. It was the real story of this game, along with Drake May, right? Like, it's not like this defense can't get scored on, right? The Rams, Matthew Stafford showed that. Like, teams have showed you can score on the Seahawks. In the Super Bowl, it was not going to happen. It took 2 great throws, and then in cleanup time they scored. But this defense was really, really good. 6 sacks, a lot of pressure. We talked about the forced fumble, strip sack. We talked about the 2 interceptions, 1 a pick 6. Special teams, no big returns, but the punt placement by Seattle was amazing. They were backing up and pinning New England in many times on all the punts by both teams, really, because again, it was just not exactly an offensive game, So that was huge. The run game controlled offense by Seattle. We talked about Sam Darnold, no turnovers. He came really close, about 3 times to be exact. 1 right out the hands. 1, hey, just turn your head. So I think there's just, but that's the way it goes, right? I mean, the defense, if you don't intercept it, then the offense gets another shot and they don't score. So, it was run the ball. It was defense, run the ball, control, don't do anything stupid. And ultimately, that's what the Seahawks did. They've used that game plan a lot. And, all credit to him. All credit to Sam Darnold, right? Not the MVP. Like I called him to, it was going to be his moment, MVP, all this. He does get a moment, right? He does get his redemption from being almost a joke of the league, seeing Ghost against the Patriots as a Jet, being in, Carolina to back up in San Francisco, to balling out in Minnesota, and that just didn't work out where they kept him. He ended up in Seattle. The story of that is amazing, right? I mean, Minnesota offered him a contract similar to Seattle. Seattle had really no plans for Darnold. They were trying to just bring back Geno, but then they couldn't get a contract worked out, an extension, or whatever the case may be. So just trade him to Vegas and get Sam Darnold. And again, he chose Seattle because they were going to give him, they were like, you're the guy. Like, he don't have to look over his back like Minnesota, J.J. McCarthy, or whoever else. So it's great how that worked out. I will bring up, though, that, Sam Darnold did lead the league in turnovers this season. But what matters is what you do in the playoffs and obviously the Super Bowl. And, again, I've been hard on Darnold, and so is a lot of the media, and for good reason, right? You got, again, I said, prove it. Do it on the field, all these things. And he did. And he can, and I picked him to win. I picked him to be the MVP. Again, he didn't win that. But no turnovers in the playoffs, obviously including the Super Bowl. So that's how you win, right? When you have that great defense, you can put together a running game because Kenneth Walker is no slouch at running back. So, Darnold, again, don't turn the ball over, and you're going to put your team in great positions to win football games. As boring as this game was, that's what they did. And, I mean, all credit to him, all credit to Mike Macdonald, all credit to that defense. Guys on that team, like Love and DeMarcus Lawrence, who, again, they were a Giant and a Cowboy. They never thought they'd see a Super Bowl. So here they are with Seattle. They put it together. It's just, a really good story. And ultimately Seattle, I talked about the weapons that was swaying my pick with Seattle was they had more weapons, definitely on offense, right? When you look at New England, it's like, oh, they got Diggs and, they got Mac Hollins. And it's like, okay, they got, Hunter Henry and they got, but a couple good running backs. But do they have like some more options? And ultimately it didn't matter. But I think Seattle had the more weapons. Smith and Jigba, and then, with Kupp and Barner, and they've got guys, with obviously Walker at running back, and I just think they had a little more weapons, but not only on offense but on defense. Like, we can talk about the Patriots, their defense is way better. They got Mill Williams, they got Carlton Davis, they've got Christian Gonzalez. They just need, I think, another guy. They're missing, I think, another receiver that will be a really good option. And I think they're missing, maybe another, whether that be linebacker, an edge, or something like that on defense. Ultimately, Seattle just had more weapons. They were just more ready, more prepared. Again, second year with Mike Macdonald, they get the quarterback that can help them. And, again, they win the Super Bowl. So, again, just praise and credit to them for, a great season. They really were great all season. And again, it's just one of those cases where sometimes teams have to prove and they have to do it to make you a believer. And they have definitely, like I said, made me a believer in the Seattle Seahawks. Again, I do say, again, that, one of the worst Super Bowls, though, I've ever watched. Kenneth Walker, by the way, MVP. And I didn't know which way they were going to go with that, But again, I'm okay with that. Which, not that they're asking me, but I think he moved the ball, averaging like 5-something yards a carry, 105 yards. So that is okay with me. And again, though, just one of the worst Super Bowls that I've watched. It's just, when your team's not in it, you want to see a really, really good game. And there for a moment, I thought the Patriots may come back and put together something. They just didn't do it. And, I think Seattle now, though, I saw a meme about this, right? About the Super Bowl, and it was like the Scooby-Doo meme. You take the mask off, and so it had the Super Bowl logo, 60 logo. Take the mask off, and it's a Thursday night football game. That's kind of what it felt like. It felt like a Thursday night football game where, a couple of teams, they can't really do anything, and it's just kind of blah. And that's what it was. The Patriots ended up with 2 touchdowns in the game offensively, but of course, like I said, it took 2 perfect throws, and then it was garbage time after that. They were really, really backed off playing a prevent soft defense, and it did kind of feel like a Thursday night game. Not gonna lie about it. And but at the end of the day, again, Seattle, they win. They got to look forward, and we're going to get to that here shortly. Let's see here. I'm going to mention this, right? And this is not taking a side on anything, because I know people are trying to make this about sides and all these other things. The halftime show, really, really quick. I expected more. I did not think it was a good halftime show. I think people need to be okay with saying that, to say, yeah, I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like it. Was it the worst? I don't know. It is what it is. But I do know Bad Bunny. I do know some of his music. Me as a wrestling fan, I know Bad Bunny from wrestling. He wrestled a couple of times for WWE. So, I was expecting a couple of hits and some songs that I knew. So personally, when he didn't do those, then I'm like, oh, that's it. Like, he didn't even do the songs I know. So, but all in all, I felt Lady Gaga was out of place. I'm like, she's singing her part to her and Bruno Mars song, but she's doing it with Bad Bunny at the Super Bowl to a different beat and all these things. And I'm like, I don't really understand that. And that's maybe not for me to understand. I have no idea. But I look at things like that. All the other stuff, that's for another conversation, for another podcast, I guess, for other people. But on this podcast, like I said, just to talk about the fun of the Super Bowl and things like that, to me, swing and a miss. On to the next one. And, looking forward for these two teams really quickly. The Seahawks, I mentioned the Patriots. Like, it's going to be tougher for them in the AFC with the teams, the quarterbacks, the coaching, everything. It's always hard to get back to the Super Bowl. You can ask any team, right? There's only been so many here in recent memory that have been able to, lose and get back, right? The Rams lost and got back. The 49ers lost and got back, lost again. The Eagles lost and got back. So, the Chiefs have lost. Obviously, they've won, but they've also lost and got back. So, it's not as easy, even though I just named about a handful of teams that have done it. But those handful of teams, are pretty good. So they have a good thing in place. I think New England does too. But like I said, it's going to be really tough in the AFC. Let's see. And then you look at what they have coming up in the offseason, and you really have to look at, like, the free agents. And, big one here is Kenneth Walker. That's a big one, right? The Super Bowl MVP, he's obviously going to be in high demand. And, we're going to get into that conversation of running backs and what do they get paid and what are they worth and, things like that. And we obviously have seen the Saquon Barkleys, the Derrick Henry, the Christian McCaffrey, what they've done to change that market. But, Kenneth Walker, he is 25 years old. So, he should expect a big payday by somebody. You know what I mean? Tariq Woolen, also a free agent. Boyamafe, edge rusher. Rashid Shaheed. They picked him up. It worked out. He will be a free agent. Kobe Bryant, Josh Jones, the right tackle. Josh Jobe, the corner. Chad Surratt, our local Super Bowl champion from the area here. Proud of him. They got some other, restricted free agents. They got some guys who could be cap casualties, things like that, are listed. But I think they're in really good shape when you talk about the question always is, like, can the team repeat? I think there's a really good chance for them. right? So, you know, I think they're going to be tough. And, I think we've seen enough from Sam Darnold that, hey, he may turn the ball over, right? But this season, he didn't do it in the playoffs. He did it in the regular season, not in the playoffs. But I think that's going to be key. The Kenneth Walker will be key. I don't, I'm not looking at any of their stuff with, how much money they have, things like that. I have no earthly idea. As for the Patriots, they don't have as many free agents unrestricted here. Looks like Austin Hooper. Kalavion Kason. So those are the bigger names that you would know. They got some restricted free agents, so they're set up really good to still be good. And that's what we talked about. It was, what are they going to look like going forward? And I think they're going to look, just fine. Both teams should be right back in the running. Again, I do just go ahead and say that I think the Seahawks have a better path to get back. If they repeat kind of the formula they did this year. Again, they're in a really tough division. The Rams, I don't think the Rams are going anywhere. I don't think the 49ers are going anywhere. The Eagles, I don't believe are going anywhere. You think about the Lions and the Packers. Let the Packers get healthy, and the Lions, if they can just get it right with their coordinators and get back on track. Other teams, the Panthers are on the rise, I guess, right? They won the division, so we got to say they're young. So, Saints look good. Whoever comes, the Bucks and Baker Mayfield, the Cowboys. Every year's their year. We get it for the last 30 years, but they do have talent. Can they put something together? And that's a real question. Harbaugh's in New York, so the NFC. Still, though, Seattle, they just won in a tough division. Obviously, when you win that division, when you win the Super Bowl, you're going to have a tougher schedule the next year. So that's the only thing is now they're going to get that Super Bowl winning schedule, that playoff winning, division winning schedule. And the same for the Patriots, right? Everybody talked about their schedule this year. Well, again, let's see what they do next year with that schedule that you get for being good, making the playoffs, winning your division, going to the Super Bowl. See how that turns out for them. We'll switch gears a little bit. Let's look at the free agency is coming up. We're done. Like I said, Super Bowl's just finished. We're looking at the offseason and free agency, the draft, things like that is coming up. And I just want to take a really, really, really quick outlook, a preview at what's going to be coming up. Not get into a lot of detail, but get into just a little bit. Like what can we look at, right? And I'm going to touch on just some free agents. What can we look for? We've already heard George Pickens is going to get franchised by Dallas. Pretty smart move by them. They don't have to give him the huge contract yet, but he performed for them. You just don't ever know what you're going to get with him, right? He's a little bit of a wild card. Looking at the rankings of the top free agents that are going to be coming up, and you got to look at Trey Hendrickson. His name was talked about in trades, obviously, franchise, things like that. But him an edge rusher out of Cincinnati, he gets double-digit sacks. He would be a big name. Well, he is the biggest name. It looks like they have him ranked here on ESPN. George Pickens, we mentioned, franchised. Daniel Jones, he's coming off injury, the Achilles injury, so his availability starting the season is going to be interesting. His contract would be interesting. Do the Colts want to stick with him or just go in a different direction? Maybe they just play with Riley Leonard until Jones comes back and bring him back on a special deal. I don't know. I think Leonard's got some talent, but we'll see what the Colts do. They got some decisions to make. They got to get some consistency at quarterback, and we just haven't seen that from them. But yeah, Daniel Jones, he's up there. Eagles, Jalen Phillips, What's his price tag going to be? Is it going to be too, pricey for the Eagles to keep him? He was really, really good for them. But again, we'll just see if he gets, is it going to be too pricey for them to keep him, to bring him back? I know he loved being there, being with a winner, outside of being in Miami and in that Vic Fangio system. Alec Pierce, receiver out of the Colts. There again, Colts, they got some work to do. You get your quarterback and one of your top receivers are free agents. Breece Hall, can he get out of New York? If I see him, just get out of New York. I don't care who they got calling the plays now. I know they replaced the whole coaching staff, but it's a good bet to get off the Jets roster if you want to succeed in life in the NFL. So Breece Hall, running back. We got some other guys. I'm just going through not every single name. I'm not going to do that. I just want to look and see who are the top ranked ones. Mike Evans, I can't see the Bucs letting him go. Even at 33, he can still produce. He obviously got hurt, but there's no reason to see him in another uniform. But, hey, you never know. Jalen Watson, cornerback, Kansas City Chiefs. Interesting, right? I don't think he's a bad number 2 corner in the league, right, to help out on if you got a shutdown on the other side. Malik Willis showed some signs in Green Bay. He's only played good in Green Bay, but, hey, sometimes it takes coaching in a franchise, right? You see that with Sam Darnold. You've seen that with Malik Willis, right? Tennessee drafted him and played him, but, no coaching consistency, no good culture in Tennessee, and he gets to Green Bay and shows that, hey, this dude can play a little bit. So, he may get a chance to compete with another team for a starting job. Travis Etienne out of Jacksonville. That would be big if they lost him. Devin Floyd as well. Man, Jacksonville's got some free agents there. Romeo Doubs, good receiver. Hey, New England, you might need another receiver. Just letting you know. Khalil Mack, old as he is, 35, he can still get to the quarterback, cause some pressures. Kyle Pitts, big tight end, never really worked out in Atlanta. He's had some, flashes. Let's just say flashes, right? But still a good weapon, big target. There he is, Kenneth Walker. Got him ranked 24. He should be ranked higher now. He just got Super Bowl MVP. Brian Cook, safety out of Kansas City. Rashid Shaheed, receiver/return man. Again, New England. Again, he's a weapon. There's Kason, Juwan Jennings, San Francisco. They don't need to lose receivers, but again, pretty good. Javonte Williams had a good year in Dallas, running back. See that being something. Let's see what else we got. Reed Blankenship. Oof, that one would hurt, man. I'm hoping the Eagles can bring him back. Let's see what else. I'm just going through the list, guys. Joey Bosa had a good year in Buffalo. Maybe not I don't know at 31 he can get big, huge money, but hey, Eagles, if you don't get Phillips back, Joey Bosa. Yeah, just going, like I said, going through Rico Dowdle. Good year at times with the Carolina. Good running back. Kobe Bryant, Seattle. There you go. Nakobe Dean, again, don't want to lose him. But I get it. They got Jahad Campbell, played really well. Dean's kind of hurt a lot. So, but he's only 25. So, Kenneth Gainwell, you want that extra running back, Super Bowl champion. You go get Kenneth Gainwell. Had a pretty good year in Pittsburgh. Again, wherever he lands is a good spot. So yeah, looking ahead, that is quickly the free agents, list. I'm not too, going into too much detail about it. Just wanted to hit on some names. That's what we can look forward to. Free agency, the draft. Obviously, Fernando Mendoza is the projected top pick by the Raiders, and then after that, it's there's all kinds of different scenarios and trades that can happen, and big those are big names. Yeah, there's some pretty good names out there. I don't know if this draft is going to blow you away, but again, Mendoza is going to be the top quarterback available. That's going to be the story. But again, these teams, they have a chance to, add some stuff here in the draft, some young talent. That will be interesting. And that's what we have to look forward to next, right? The NFL just finished. So now we got to look forward to that. On the Philadelphia Eagles, things that have happened this offseason. I know that they've been a big conversation, and obviously it's my team. So, they get rid of Kevin Patullo. They bring in Sean Mannion. They have always, all season, it feels like always, the media with A.J. Brown trade rumors. He did a podcast, did a show, during Super Bowl week, and he mentioned like he loves Philly, like that's home, that's where he wants to be. Can't wait to get in the lab, work with the new offensive coordinators. Because I say that because they got Mannion, they got other guys involved that are going to try to put together some sort of NFL professional offense that they did not have this season. So, he's like, hey, fans, everything is like Philly is Philly, man, and it truly is. And I think it's funny how I think sometimes they, whoever is putting these rumors and posts out here, again, I go back to the media and I go back to whoever, like podcaster, whoever are putting like fake stuff out just to say stuff because they think maybe this, that, and the other. No, have some facts, have some truth. And again, stop being an anonymous source on stuff. This is not just about the Eagles, like guys anonymous source in the locker room. Stop being an anonymous source. Be a man, speak up. But anyways, that's my rant on that. But A.J. Brown saying he's going to be back, so that's good news. A little worried about the offensive line. Landon Dickerson, Lane Johnson, little worried. There's retirement rumors, injury rumors about them. So that does worry me. Stoutland being gone as the line coach, that worries me. Obviously, there was some misunderstanding or disagreements about the offense and his role in the running game. So now he's gone. Fangio has announced he is back. I am reading stuff about Jim Schwartz was ready, I think, to step in and be the D coordinator. He was like checking in. So he claims, word is he's going to sit out a season of coaching, which, if Fangio coaches one more year and then Jim Schwartz steps in, I'm okay with that, right? Jim Schwartz obviously won a Super Bowl as the defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles in their first Super Bowl championship. So those things are really, that's what's on right now, right? For the Eagles, they got to get another line coach. Wishful thinking is Jason Kelsey, but we'll see. But yeah, that line is going to be tough. They obviously have, free agents in Reed Blankenship and, Nakobe Dean, Jalen Phillips. So they've got guys. Those are some big names, right? Those are some big names that we have to look out for that could really impact that team. And again, I am biased, so I have to, I'm always going to talk about the Eagles and say, what do they have? What do they possibly lose? Dallas Goedert, a free agent. Fred Johnson, a good backup, lineman, offensive lineman. Other ones that don't, Brandon Graham, he came back. I mean, if he can come back again and just give you what he gave you, I'm okay with that too. Calcaterra, our backup tight end, good blocker, makes some good catches too. So Jahan Dotson, I mean, he makes plays here and there, but if you've seen the Eagles, they don't really use their third wide receiver, no matter who it is. It's very rare. It's very occasionally. So, I don't know what they're going to do there. But again, I don't know who they can keep off this and how they really need to look at corner. I mean, Adoree Jackson played better, but I'd really like for him to look at corner. And again, if you're looking at it from a business, point of view, I really think they could look at C.J. Gardner-Johnson again. He brings some toughness. He brings that, he's a ball hawk. He's got that attitude that you need on defense. And you saw that with the Bears when he finally ended up there this season, right? He brought something different to them. So I would love to have him back. Can they just make amends again and bring him back a third time if they don't get Reed Blankenship? But again, I think we need, I don't know, something like that. Nakobe Dean, I think, is going to be it's just going to be one of those things where, hey, we got Jahad Campbell on this rookie deal. He played lights out. Even though Nakobe Dean plays amazing, but again, he does get hurt, so that's the only knock on him. And again, we'll always have our Super Bowl championship if they don't bring him back. Goddard's a tough one. Great tight end, great player. Does go through some injuries, but again, up there in age. So they made the decision on Zach Ertz about this time, and they moved on. Now they don't have a replacement, so that where the draft comes into place, things like that. But I think key things for the Philadelphia Eagles going forward is going to be, again, the offense. I think is going to be fine as long as your linemen don't leave and retire and things like that. They'll have to figure that out, right? And then just get healthy in general offensive line, right? They'll figure out the passing and the run. They got too many weapons and too many great stars to not figure that out. So I'm not worried about that. They'll get back on track. Defensively, again, you got to get some pass rush on the edge, and again, corner play is huge, especially in the division. You got to play the Cowboys, and they got Lamb, and they got Pickens, and that's tough. That's tough to cover. And Quinyon Mitchell can only cover one guy, so gotta really, really. I really want them to focus in on that. Safety obviously is important, and I know money is important, and hopefully they figure it out. But just again, looking ahead for the Philadelphia Eagles, I had to do a little bit on them just to say, hey, what's the outlook look like there? And other than that, I mean, I hate this space. I do hate this space of nothing going on right now. Football is now over for the season. We can only look forward to, baseball is kind of going to get rolling. But again, they don't play till like late March, early April. So baseball's a while. NBA still going on. Luckily, right now, the Charlotte Hornets are hot. So having the local team being good for once is a good thing. So NBA, but again, like I said, not too far away. We're a few weeks, maybe a month-ish, right? 3 weeks maybe or so away from NFL free agency. Again, I love free agency. I love, just like we just did the NBA trade deadline. Love the trade deadline. Love free agency to see what my team does, other teams do, players switching teams. That's always fun for me. On the lookout for, new uniforms. I've seen, teams have put in, like the Titans and Falcons might be changing their uniforms. So that, I'm a nerd for stuff like that. I like to see, new uniforms changes. I think some other teams put in some paperwork or whatever you want to call it, filed for, uniform. Some of them are like alternate uniforms, and they could be like another, color helmet or something like that. So I definitely, I look forward to that. Look forward to the draft. NFL, they do it right, man. They spread it out where you are invested almost all season, all right, up until like training camp and then preseason. So, until next year, I mean, if you're, again, it's hard to say and just at the moment say, okay, this team, they're going to be good. They're going to be great. They're going to be the best. And they're going to be the favorite. Obviously, Seattle will be a favorite. I think the Rams will be up there. I mean, the Patriots just went. But again, you got a lot of teams coming back. But a lot of new coaches, a lot of changes in the NFL. Well, we count 10 new coaches in the league this year going to be. So that makes for an interesting story going into next season. But yeah, I'll do another episode on free agency for sure. That stuff I love talking about. Love looking into the changes and what that means for the teams that bring back players or players go to new teams. So that will be fun as well. And obviously a draft episode too. And again, doing this by myself is going to be it's obviously different, but we're going to make it work and try to make it, we'll see how the format goes, see how everything works out. But again, this has been another episode of Fanatically Speaking with Kent. And, hey, go to social media, follow us, to keep up with the show, what episodes are out, release, things like that. I try to have fun with the artwork and the music for each episode. Not that even matters. But I try to have it correlate with the episode. But, yeah, we, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I try to do some videos on TikTok time to time. Hope to be doing more of those to try to generate some eyeballs and ears on the show. Having some takes on sports and obviously, like I said, I'm a wrestling fan, so I like to do wrestling too. And you'll get more of that now on the show. Since it's just me, I love talking wrestling, watching wrestling, along with, again, football, baseball, basketball. But again, on all those socials, and then you can listen to the show on all podcast outlets. It really doesn't matter. It's everywhere. go and listen, and you can even listen on YouTube, even though we don't have video at the moment. Listen on there if you have to. But yeah, definitely listen, definitely share. That's always the thing. And then again, comment, like, follow, all that fun stuff as well. To all those people, I post stuff on Facebook all the time, like personally, but I also share the show stuff. You like all my kids' pictures, you like all that stuff. So I know you see my stuff. So, go and go and, check out Fanatically Speaking too. Like that stuff too. And, listen and tell somebody, trying to be fun with it. But yeah, and as always, tap that app, whatever you listen on, whatever device. There's an app, there's a button, and I just like to be fun with it and say tap that app. So for that, in this episode, I am out.